Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Keep up with everything at Tarpley.net, Tarpley.net. Keep up with things from minute to minute on Twitter, the Webster G. Tarpley on Twitter. And so we see that the question of Libya, far from resolved, Gaddafi, by hanging on, may be able to outlast the imperialists who are having political and indeed logistical problems. Gates says NATO is running out of bombs, and that is significant. And we've also got Gates saying NATO risks being militarily irrelevant, and Gates says NATO is risking dismal failure in Libya. Now, that doesn't sound like a triumphal procession, but let's look further. As we mentioned, in Yemen, this is now another war. The entire color revolution demagogy is also discredited in Yemen, because this was supposed to be the golden youth in the public square, the singing tomorrows, democracy, rule of law, and all the rest of it. Baloney. This is a cynical destabilization. The target, of course, is not so much Yemen, although Yemen is targeted, but Saudi Arabia is ultimately supposed to be the recipient of this destabilization. Joint Special Operations Command operating in Yemen, the it's a joint. The JSOC and CIA have an office in Sana'a. They're operating. They're running drone strikes. The pretext, of course, here is this AQAP, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. This is totally created by the U.S. The two top leaders come from the U.S. We have Awlaki, the CIA lackey, Anwar Awlaki from New Mexico, obvious U.S. double agent, no argument. Awlaki, the CIA lackey, he is a legend. And Shiri, who had been in Guantanamo Bay concentration camp for those many years, was let out and given the new mission to go into Yemen and to create a civil war. Now, this comes in the wake of the severe wounding of President Saleh when the opposition tribes, because that's what it is, tribes subverted by the CIA, paid with U.S. gold, attacked the presidential palace. Saleh was significantly wounded by shrapnel and burned over almost half of his body, taken to Saudi Arabia for medical treatment, but also to be interned, one thinks. However, his family is still in command, and perhaps we'll be hearing from them. We'll have to see what the family is able to do. But you can see where this is going and why. The target, once again, is Saudi Arabia. Now, we've got in Syria, so far still, no big rebellion in Damascus, no big rebellion in Aleppo. Those are two successes for the Assad people. But in the city of Jizr, J-I-S-R, we've got a story that 100 security men of the regime were killed over the past week, and now the Syrian army with tank forces is massing for the attack on that group of rebels. And this has been going on from the very beginning. The idea that the Syrian rebellion is peaceful is pure baloney. The Syrian state television was showing you armed gunmen firing at security forces from the very beginning. These were always armed commandos of the Muslim Brotherhood. So, will there be a UN resolution about Syria? That's the next question. It's the U.S., Britain, and France, of course, the hypocrites, the imperialists, the butchers, pushing for, of course, a statement of deep concern about human rights, and they'd love to have more sanctions, and if they could bomb, they would bomb. But Russia, so far, has blocked them, Russia and China blocking them, even some others, even Brazil, at least having some questions to ask, not rolling over immediately for the U.S., and the British. So Syria also hanging on. And again, Netanyahu accuses them of the Syrians of forcing or facilitating these Palestinians getting to the border for the anniversary of the 1967 war. In Sudan, the Khartoum government of General Bashir is continuing to occupy the area of Abyei, the size of Connecticut. It's claimed by the South, it's claimed by the North, and these are competing tribal claims. The Dinka of the South claim it, and the Miseria of the North claim it for themselves. That's where they go in certain seasons of the year. So that's worth watching. We're told that tensions between Russia and Georgia are rising along that border. Well, it's 3 years since the lunatic Saakashvili, the fascist madman, attacked Russia with his toy army in August of 2008. Is he going to come back for more? Is the U.S. goading him? Is that a U.S. gambit at this point? We're also looking at Iraq, because Iraq is an area where Iran can respond. If the U.S. insists on attacking Syria with color revolutions, as we see, how would Iran respond? Well, one place Iran can respond is in Iraq. There are still 50,000, almost, or probably more, 50,000 U.S. troops, who knows how many contractors, I'm sure swarms and swarms. The U.S. has a large presence in Iraq. This past week, we had the biggest attack on the U.S. occupiers, invaders, that we've seen in 2 years, I believe, as Shiite militia have attacked a U.S. outpost and killed half a dozen GIs. Is that the Iranians signaling that they can overextend even further the overextended, overstretched U.S. forces? Is this Muqtada Sadr? Muqtada Sadr wants the U.S. out completely by the end of this year, and Gates and others have been making noises that it's not going to be possible, that one may have to stay longer. Other things that are going on, other attacks, other destabilizations in the spring of putches. The London Economist, big attack on Berlusconi. Berlusconi hanging on. He's facing some referenda. Naturally, I'm against privatizing anybody's water supply. That's a monstrosity. Berlusconi, you better drop that stuff because you're going to get slammed. But on the other hand, Berlusconi probably more independent of the London banks and the New York banks than this wretched excuse for a post-communist party, right? This Bersani Democratic Party that we have there. This is pathetic. We need if you want to fight Berlusconi, you better get your own program against the IMF, against the World Bank, against the WTO, against the European Commission, and think about what you can do to relieve the debt burden on the Italian people. So, London Economist attacking Berlusconi. Anonymous, this group of a leaderless group of hackers associated in the past with Assange and WikiLeaks. In other words, the wonderful plaything of the intelligence agencies, right? Made to order for CIA manipulation. Anonymous is attacking whom? Turkey. Turkey also a U.S. target for destabilization, needless to say, because Turkey is the country that wants to play its own card. Turkey plays the Turkish card before it plays any other card. We've also got, though, some signs of increased tension between Turkey and Syria, right? Erdogan this afternoon has made a speech saying that the Syrian government is behaving in a barbaric way. Erdogan probably has pressures on him, but maybe this is not the strategy that he needs. He needs something more than that in any case. So as you look across this panorama, the putches and the color revolutions are threatening to turn into wars, and that is the point that we have reached in this crisis. Also, just to point out for future developments, the current head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Amano, is a total loss. He cannot be believed. He is a tool of the U.S. and the British. We should also recall one other thing, since we talked about WikiLeaks. David Sanger of the New York Times on National Public Radio this morning reminds us that in many ways the destabilization of Yemen was helped along by WikiLeaks, that WikiLeaks put out documents saying they had Saleh talking to the U.S. Embassy, telling them, you can have all the drone strikes you want, but you got to say that I, Saleh, are doing them. So this was another way to undermine the credibility of Saleh. We'll be back with our second hour here on World Crisis Radio.